The alarm cut through the steady hum of the celestial way station like a scream in a library. Dr. Ryan Mitchell had been staring at his research screen for the past 3 hours, analyzing blood samples from 6 different alien species, when the sound made him jump. Before he could even process what was happening, people started running. Not walking fast. Not hurrying. Running. Security guards in their black uniforms sprinted past his lab window. Medical personnel rushed by with equipment carts rattling behind them. Then came what looked like an entire group of tall, elegant aliens in flowing robes, their faces twisted with something Ryan recognized immediately despite their non-human features. Fear. Raw, desperate fear. Ryan stood up from his desk, his scientist brain already cataloging details. The aliens were Thalasians, he could tell from their shimmering silver skin and the way they moved with an almost liquid grace. They were heading toward Bay 7, the main diplomatic docking area. Something serious was happening. He should probably stay in his lab. That would be the smart thing to do. The safe thing. Ryan had only been stationed on the way station for 8 months, and he'd learned early on that getting involved in diplomatic incidents was a quick way to end your career. The station existed as neutral ground between dozens of species, and neutrality meant keeping your head down and doing your job. But Ryan had never been particularly good at doing the smart thing. He grabbed his medical credentials badge and headed for the door. His supervisor would probably yell at him later, but his curiosity was too strong. Besides, he was a xenobiologist specializing in comparative blood chemistry. If this was a medical emergency involving aliens, maybe he could actually help. The corridors were chaos. Station personnel pressed themselves against the walls as the Thalasian delegation rushed past. Ryan followed in their wake, flashing his credentials at the security checkpoint. The guard barely glanced at it before waving him through. Everyone was too focused on whatever was happening ahead to care about proper protocol. When Ryan reached Bay 7, he found a crowd forming a wide circle around something on the floor. He pushed through carefully, using his height to see over the shorter aliens in front of him. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. A woman lay on the cold metal deck plating, and even from 20 feet away, Ryan could see she was dying. She was Thalasian, like the others, but there was something different about her. Her skin didn't just shimmer, it seemed to glow from within, covered in intricate crystalline patterns that ran along her temples, down her neck, and across her exposed collarbone. The patterns were beautiful, like someone had painted her with liquid starlight. But that light was fading. As Ryan watched, the glow dimmed further, pulsing weakly like a candle about to go out. Around her, Thalasian guards stood in formation, their weapons holstered but their postures tense. A physician knelt beside her, running strange devices over her body. The equipment made worried chirping sounds that didn't need translation. Ryan pushed closer, using his credentials to get past another checkpoint. He needed to see what was happening. His scientific training was screaming at him that something about this situation was deeply unusual. "Clear the area," one of the guards shouted. The translator in Ryan's ear rendered it in flat English, but he could hear the musical quality of the original Thalasian language underneath. "This is Princess Elena of the 7th House. All non-essential personnel must leave immediately." Princess. That single word explained everything. The panic, the security, the desperate fear on every Thalasian face. This wasn't just a medical emergency. This was a political crisis waiting to happen. The physician, his uniform marked him as Dr. Victor according to the translator's visual display, looked up at the gathered guards. His face was pale, which Ryan had learned was a bad sign in Thalasians. Their skin naturally shimmered silver, but stress or fear could drain that luster away. "It's plasma degeneration," Victor announced, his voice carrying across the sudden silence. "Royal strain. She needs an immediate transfusion or she'll be dead within hours." One of the guards stepped forward. "We have medical supplies in the ship. Everything she might need." "Supplies won't help," Victor snapped, frustration bleeding into his tone. "She needs blood. Living blood from a compatible donor. The royal strain is too specific. Too rare." Another guard spoke up, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Someone in our delegation must be compatible. Test us all." Victor was already shaking his head. "I've run the preliminary scans. None of you carry the royal markers. You're all common bloodlines." "Then contact the homeworld," a third guard demanded. "Have them send someone." "I've already sent the emergency transmission," Victor replied. He looked down at the princess, and Ryan saw something break in the physician's expression. "The nearest ship with confirmed royal blood compatibility is 4 to 7 hours away. She has 3 hours. Maybe 4 if we're lucky." The silence that fell was absolute. Ryan could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. 4 to 7 hours. The princess needed help now, and it was 2 days away. Simple math. Impossible math. Ryan looked at the woman on the floor. Princess Elena. She was young, probably close to his own age if Thalasian aging worked anything like human aging. Her breathing was shallow, her chest barely rising and falling. The crystalline patterns on her skin had dimmed to almost nothing, just the faintest flicker of light struggling to stay alive. She was going to die. Right here on the deck of a space station, surrounded by people who couldn't save her. And then Ryan remembered something. A research paper he'd read 6 months ago. A theory that had seemed crazy at the time, the kind of speculation that serious scientists dismissed. But the data had been compelling. Suggestive. The genetic markers in Thalasian blood showed similarities to certain rare human blood types. Not identical, but close enough that some researchers wondered if there might be compatibility. It had never been tested. The ethics alone would be complicated. But the theory existed. Ryan's hands started to shake. This was insane. He was thinking about volunteering to give blood to an alien princess based on a theoretical paper that most of the scientific community had ignored. If he was wrong, he could kill her faster. If he was right but the transfusion had unexpected side effects, he could trigger an interstellar incident that would make his career ending look like a minor footnote. He looked at Princess Elena again. The light in her crystalline patterns flickered once more, weaker than before. 3 hours, the physician had said. She had 3 hours left to live. Ryan took a deep breath and stepped forward into the circle of guards. Every weapon immediately turned toward him, and he raised his hands to show he wasn't a threat. "Wait," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I might be able to help her." The medical bay felt wrong from the moment Ryan walked in. The air was too still, too quiet, like everyone was holding their breath and forgot to let it out. He could feel the weight of a dozen pairs of eyes on him as he lay down on the medical bed. The mattress was designed for Thalasian physiology, which meant it felt oddly firm in some places and too soft in others. Not exactly comfortable, but comfort wasn't really the priority right now. Next to him, on an identical bed, Princess Elena lay unconscious. Up close, Ryan could see just how bad things had gotten. The crystalline patterns on her skin that should have been glowing were barely visible now, like stars trying to shine through thick fog. Her breathing was so shallow he had to watch carefully to see her chest move at all. Dr. Victor moved between them with quick, efficient movements, but Ryan noticed the physician's hands were shaking. Just slightly, but enough to see. Victor was scared. That should probably worry Ryan more than it did, but he'd already made his choice. There was no backing out now. The Thalasian guards stood in a semicircle around both beds, and the looks on their faces were complicated. Ryan could see hope there, desperate and fragile. But he could also see something else. Disgust, maybe. Or horror. The idea of human blood mixing with their princess was clearly bothering some of them on a level that went beyond medical concern. One guard kept his hand on his weapon. Ryan tried not to think about what that meant. "We're ready to begin," Victor said, attaching the last monitor to Ryan's arm. The device felt cold against his skin, and it made a soft beeping sound that didn't quite match his heartbeat. "Dr. Mitchell, I need you to understand something before we start. What we're about to do has never been attempted before. Not once in recorded history. We have no data on how human blood will interact with Thalasian physiology at this level." Ryan nodded. "I know. We talked about this. I need to say it again anyway," Victor continued, his voice tight. "If this goes wrong, it could kill her within minutes. It could also kill you. Your blood could be toxic to her system, or her body could have a rejection response so violent it shuts down both your circulatory systems through the connection. We don't know. But if we don't try, she dies anyway," Ryan said. "Right?" Victor was quiet for a moment. "Yes. She dies anyway." "Then let's stop talking and start trying." The physician nodded slowly. He turned to the machine between the two beds, a piece of technology that looked like someone had crossed a dialysis machine with a computer from a science fiction movie. Lights blinked across its surface in patterns Ryan couldn't interpret. Victor's fingers moved over the controls with practiced ease, double-checking settings, confirming connections, making absolutely sure everything was perfect. It had to be perfect. They wouldn't get a second chance at this. "Beginning transfusion," Victor announced to the room. His voice carried the weight of someone about to step off a cliff. "May the ancestors guide us." He pressed a final button, and the machine came to life with a low hum. Ryan felt it immediately. The pull. It wasn't painful exactly, but it wasn't pleasant either. Like someone had attached a vacuum to his veins and started drawing blood out in a steady, insistent rhythm. He'd donated blood before back on Earth, so the sensation wasn't completely foreign. But this felt different. More invasive. More serious. He watched his blood travel through the clear tube, dark red against the transparent material. It looked so normal. So human. It was hard to believe something so ordinary might save an alien princess's life. Or end it. The blood reached the machine, and Ryan lost sight of it as it passed through the complex mechanisms inside. Whatever the device was doing, filtering, treating, preparing the blood for Thalasian biology, happened too fast and too hidden for him to see. Then his blood entered Princess Elena's system. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then everything happened at once. The crystalline patterns on Elena's skin exploded with light. Not the soft blue glow they'd had before. This was different. Brighter. Intense. The pale blue shifted to pure white, then to gold, blazing so bright that Ryan had to squint. The guards around them stumbled backward, throwing their arms up to shield their eyes from the sudden brilliance. "What's happening?" Ryan shouted over the sudden noise. The medical equipment had started screaming, alarms going off in patterns that sounded urgent even through the Thalasian technology. "I don't know." Victor yelled back, his eyes locked on his scanning devices. "Her genetic structure it's changing. The human blood isn't just stabilizing her. It's integrating. Rewriting her cellular markers at a fundamental level. I've never seen anything like this." The light spread across Elena's body like someone had set her on fire, but it wasn't burning her. The crystalline patterns were growing, extending beyond their original boundaries. New patterns formed on her arms, her shoulders, places that had been bare silver skin moments ago. They glowed with that white-gold brilliance, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. A heartbeat that was getting stronger. Ryan could see it on the monitors. Her vital signs weren't just stabilizing. They were surging upward, climbing past normal ranges into territory that made Victor stare at his screens in disbelief. "Her blood pressure is increasing," Victor said, his voice filled with awe and fear in equal measure. "Oxygen levels rising. Neural activity spiking. This isn't just saving her life. This is. I don't even know what this is." Ryan felt strange. Dizzy, but not weak. There was a warmth spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with blood loss. It felt like standing in sunlight after being in shade too long. Pleasant but intense. And underneath that warmth was something else. Something he couldn't quite name. An awareness. A presence that wasn't his own, pressing at the edges of his consciousness. Before he could process what that meant, something else happened. A piece of jewelry at Princess Elena's throat started to glow. Ryan hadn't paid much attention to it before. It looked like a decorative pendant, the kind of thing royalty wore. But now it was responding to whatever was happening with the transfusion. The pendant lifted off her skin. Just rose into the air like gravity had stopped applying to it specifically. It rotated slowly, hanging in the space between Ryan's bed and Elena's, and began to emit a sound that Ryan felt more than heard. A deep, resonant tone that vibrated in his bones and made his teeth ache. Every single guard in the room dropped to one knee. Just like that. Instant. Synchronized. Even the one who'd been keeping his hand on his weapon. Dr. Victor's face went absolutely white. Not pale. White. Like every drop of blood had drained from his body in an instant. "That's the royal scanner," he whispered. "It hasn't activated in over 1,000 years." The device, because Ryan could see now it was definitely some kind of technology, not just jewelry, pulsed with golden light. The light washed over him, warm and searching, like invisible hands examining every inch of his body. Then it swept over Princess Elena, and the light intensified until Ryan had to close his eyes against the glare. When he opened them again, symbols hung in the air. Holographic projections that looked ancient and alien and impossibly complex. They rotated slowly, and though Ryan couldn't read them, he understood they meant something important. Something that had just changed everything. The scanner spoke. Its voice was mechanical but ancient, like a computer that had been running for millennia. Ryan's translator struggled with it, stuttering before finally rendering words he could understand. Perfect royal match detected. Genetic resonance, 99.8%. Ancestral air bond confirmed. Precursor protocol activated. The words hung in the air like a sentence. Or maybe a prophecy. The medical bay had turned into complete chaos in less than 20 minutes. Ryan sat on his bed, still connected to a few monitors, watching the madness unfold around him. Holographic displays flickered to life across the room, each one showing a different Thalasian official. They were all talking at once, their voices overlapping in a cacophony of musical tones that his translator couldn't keep up with. Words came through in fragments: impossible, protocol, contamination, sacred bloodline, none of it making him feel any better about what had just happened. Princess Elena stood in the middle of it all, and the transformation was remarkable. An hour ago she'd been dying, her skin dull and her breathing shallow. Now she looked more alive than anyone in the room. The crystalline patterns on her skin glowed steadily, that white gold light pulsing with her heartbeat. She was still hooked up to medical equipment, wires trailing from her arms, but she stood straight and confident as she spoke with the holographic officials. Whatever Ryan's blood had done to her, it had done it thoroughly. Ryan, on the other hand, felt like he'd been hit by a truck. Not physically, actually, physically he felt fine, just a little tired from the blood loss. But mentally? Emotionally? He was barely holding it together. His hands wouldn't stop shaking, and there was this strange sensation in the back of his mind that he couldn't shake. Like someone had left a radio on in another room, just barely audible, a presence he couldn't quite ignore. He had a horrible suspicion he knew what that presence was. Dr. Victor finally extracted himself from the crowd of arguing officials and made his way over to Ryan. The physician looked exhausted, his silver skin had lost some of its shimmer, and there were creases around his eyes that hadn't been there an hour ago. He carried a datapad in one hand and a glass of something blue in the other. "Here," Victor said, offering the glass. "You need to drink this. It'll help with the recovery." Ryan took it and sniffed cautiously. It smelled like mint and copper, which was an odd combination. "What is it?" "A recovery supplement. It's designed for Thalasians, but the base compounds are compatible with human biology. I checked." Victor sat down heavily in the chair beside Ryan's bed, like his legs had given up on supporting him. "We give it to blood donors after transfusions. Helps restore iron levels and electrolytes." Ryan took a careful sip. It tasted better than it smelled, kind of like a sports drink mixed with herbal tea. He drank half the glass before setting it down on the medical tray beside him. "Okay. I've been patient. I've sat here quietly while everyone freaks out. But I need you to explain to me what just happened. In simple terms. Because right now all I know is that I donated blood and apparently caused some kind of interstellar incident." Victor let out a long breath and rubbed his face with both hands. "Simple terms. Right. Okay." He pulled up something on his datapad and turned it so Ryan could see. The screen showed what looked like a double helix, but far more complex than human DNA. Multiple strands woven together in patterns that hurt Ryan's eyes to look at. "Do you know anything about the precursors? The ancient alien race?" Ryan asked. "I've heard of them. Everyone has. They supposedly existed millions of years ago and left ruins on half the planets in known space. Most people think they're mythology." "They're not mythology," Victor said firmly. "They were real. And they didn't just leave ruins. They left us." He tapped the screen, and the image zoomed in on a specific section of the DNA strand. A portion glowed red. "This is a precursor genetic marker. It exists in Thalasian DNA, specifically in the royal bloodlines. We've known about it for centuries, but we've never fully understood what it does or why it's there." He swiped the screen, and a second DNA strand appeared beside the first. This one was simpler, recognizably human. But there, buried in the structure, was an identical glowing red marker. Ryan stared at it. "That's human DNA." "Your DNA specifically," Victor confirmed. "We scanned it during the preliminary compatibility tests. The precursor marker exists in certain rare human bloodlines too. We've theorized about this for years, but we've never had proof. The precursors seeded multiple worlds with intelligent life, and they wove their genetic code into all of us." "But why?" Ryan asked. "What's the point?" "We think it was a safeguard. Or an experiment. Or maybe a test." Victor shrugged helplessly. The precursors left no instruction manual. But the royal bloodline has always carried a specific version of this marker. It's incomplete, like half of a code. We believe the other half existed somewhere in the galaxy, waiting to be found." He gestured at Ryan. "You're the other half." The words landed like a physical blow. Ryan set down his glass carefully, afraid he might drop it. "I'm the other half of what exactly?" "Of the royal genetic code," Victor said quietly. "When your blood mixed with Princess Elena's, the two halves recognized each other. They bonded. Integrated. That's why her patterns changed, why her vitals went beyond normal ranges. Your DNA literally completed something in her genetics that's been incomplete for thousands of years. Ryan's brain was struggling to process this. The scanner. That device that started floating and glowing. What was that about? The royal scanner is precursor technology, Victor explained. It's been passed down through the royal family for generations. Its sole purpose is to detect when both halves of the genetic code come into proximity. It's only supposed to activate when it finds a perfect royal match. He met Ryan's eyes. It found you. And what does that mean? Ryan demanded. In practical terms. What does perfect royal match actually mean for me? Victor hesitated, and that hesitation told Ryan everything he needed to know about how bad this was about to get. In Thalasian lore and tradition, Victor said slowly, a perfect royal match is considered sacred. Inviolable. When the scanner confirms a match, it creates a genetic bond between the two individuals that cannot be broken. You and Princess Elena are now connected on a fundamental level. Your bloodlines are entangled. Entangled how? You'll have an awareness of each other. Nothing invasive, but you'll be able to sense her presence, her general emotional state, whether she's healthy or in danger. She'll sense the same from you. The bond grows stronger over time, especially with proximity. Victor looked down at his datapad like he couldn't quite meet Ryan's eyes. And according to our laws, any future heirs of the royal line must carry both genetic strains. Yours and hers. To maintain the precursor heritage. Ryan stood up so fast he nearly ripped out his remaining monitor connections. Wait. Are you telling me I'm genetically bound to an alien princess I met 2 hours ago? That we're expected to? He couldn't even finish the sentence. Not expected, Victor corrected quickly. The bond doesn't force anything. It's not romantic or sexual in nature unless the individuals choose that. But legally and politically. He grimaced. Yes. You're bound to her. In Thalasian culture, you're now considered equal to royalty. Your status is tied to hers. Your future is tied to hers. The bond cannot be dissolved or ignored. Ryan sat back down, his legs suddenly unreliable. That presence in the back of his mind pulsed stronger, and he realized with a start that it was her. Princess Elena. He could feel her attention shift toward him, like she'd heard his distress even across the room. The sensation was alien and intimate and deeply uncomfortable. This is insane, Ryan said, but his voice came out weak. I just wanted to save her life. I know, Victor said, and he actually sounded sympathetic. But you did more than that. You fulfilled a prophecy that's been waiting for thousands of years. And now both our species are going to have to deal with the consequences. Across the room, Princess Elena finished her conversation with the holograms and turned to look directly at Ryan. Their eyes met, and through the bond, he felt her emotions clearly for the first time. Gratitude. Confusion. Apprehension. And underneath it all, a fierce determination. She started walking toward him, and Ryan knew his life would never be the same again. The defensive shields came online with a sound Ryan felt more than heard, a deep thrumming that vibrated through the station's walls and floor. It reminded him of standing too close to a bass speaker at a concert, except this bass note carried the very real message that someone was about to start shooting at them. Security personnel materialized from every direction. Half were human, wearing the dark blue uniforms of Earth Defense. The other half were Thalasian guards in their flowing silver armor that somehow managed to look both ceremonial and deadly. They formed a protective box around Ryan and Princess Elena, weapons drawn, and started moving them through the corridors at a pace just short of running. Ryan stumbled trying to keep up. Is this really necessary? Can't we just keep moving? Dr. Mitchell, one of the human guards, cut him off. Her name tag read Torres, and she had the kind of voice that made it clear arguing would be a waste of everyone's time. Princess Elena moved beside him with infuriating grace, like being rushed through hostile corridors by armed guards was just another Tuesday for her. Maybe it was. Ryan had no idea what royal life was like. Through the bond, that weird connection he still wasn't used to, he could feel her emotions. She wasn't as calm as she looked. Underneath the composed exterior was genuine fear, though whether it was fear for herself or fear for what was happening, he couldn't tell. They turned a corner and nearly collided with another group of guards coming from the opposite direction. Everyone's weapons came up for a tense second before recognition set in and they merged into one larger, more paranoid group. What's going on? Ryan asked as they started moving again. Why are we running? Ships, one of the Thalasian guards answered shortly. Extremist faction. They're coming for you both. Coming for us as in they want to talk, or coming for us as in As in weapons charged and hostile intent confirmed, Guard Torres said. The latter. Definitely the latter. They reached a heavy security door that required 3 different people to unlock. Ryan's heart was pounding now, and not just from the speed walking. People wanted to kill him. Actually kill him. Yesterday his biggest worry had been whether his research grant would be renewed. Today he was apparently important enough to murder. The security door opened onto a conference room that looked like it had been built to survive a direct hit from a nuclear weapon. The walls were thick reinforced metal, and Ryan counted at least 6 different types of scanning equipment embedded in the ceiling. A massive table dominated the center of the room, surrounded by chairs, and along one wall were holographic display screens. Those screens were already active, and what they showed made Ryan's stomach drop. 6 ships hung in space against the black backdrop of stars. They weren't huge, maybe frigate-sized, but they bristled with weapons, and they were heading straight for the station. Even to Ryan's untrained eye, they looked aggressive. Predatory. 20 minutes until weapons range, announced a man in a station commander's uniform. He stood near the displays, his face grim. We've activated defensive shields and scrambled our security forces, but there's a problem. Just one? Elena asked dryly. The big one, the commander continued. This is a neutral zone. The Celestial Way Station exists outside any single government's jurisdiction. That's the whole point, it's neutral ground where all species can meet safely. If we fire first, we violate 17 different treaties. The political fallout would be catastrophic. And if we don't fire, they blow us apart, Torres pointed out. That's the summary, yes. Ryan moved closer to the displays, studying the approaching ships. Each one had a symbol painted on its hull, a complex geometric pattern that meant nothing to him but made every Thalasian in the room tense up. That's the mark of the purist movement, Elena said quietly, standing beside him. They're extremists who believe genetic purity is the foundation of Thalasian civilization. They think any mixing of bloodlines is sacrilege. And I just mixed my bloodline with yours in the most dramatic way possible, Ryan finished. Great. That's just great. Dr. Victor entered the room, looking even more exhausted than before. He carried a datapad and immediately moved to the commander. I've been monitoring their communications. They are broadcasting on all frequencies. The message is short: purge the contamination. They're not here to talk. Can we negotiate? Ryan asked desperately. Explain that this was a medical emergency? That I was just trying to save her life. They don't care about explanations, Elena said. Her voice was hard, but through the bond, Ryan felt her anger and frustration. To them, the bond between us is an abomination. They'd rather see me dead than tainted by human genetics. That's insane. That's fanaticism, she corrected. Logic doesn't apply. The commander pulled up another display, this one showing the station's defensive capabilities. Ryan didn't understand most of what he was looking at, but he understood enough to know it wasn't good. The station had shields and some weapons, but it was designed for protection, not warfare. Against 6 dedicated warships, they were outgunned. What about Earth? Ryan asked. Can't my government help? Torres shook her head. Earth Command has been notified, but the nearest military vessels are 8 hours away. We don't have 8 hours. We've got 20 minutes. 90 minutes now, the commander corrected, watching his countdown timer. Ryan started pacing, his mind racing through options. There had to be a way out of this that didn't involve people dying. There had to be. What if I leave? He suggested suddenly. What if I take a shuttle and head away from the station? Would they follow me and leave everyone else alone? No, Elena said immediately. They'd destroy your shuttle and then come back for me. This isn't just about you, Ryan. It's about what we represent together. The bond. Then what if we both? Also no, Elena cut him off. I'm not running. And I'm not letting you run either. Through the bond, Ryan felt her determination like a wall of steel. She meant it. Whatever else she was, Princess Elena wasn't a coward. A new voice entered the conversation, this one coming from one of the holographic displays. An older Thalasian appeared, his skin marked with patterns that indicated extreme age and importance. He wore robes that looked ceremonial, and when he spoke, everyone in the room went quiet. Princess Elena. Dr. Mitchell. I am High Counselor Nathan of the Thalasian governing body. I'm addressing you because the situation has escalated beyond a simple medical incident. With respect, Counselor, Elena said, we're aware. There are 6 ships trying to kill us. Those ships represent a faction that has significant support among our population, Nathan continued. The conservative elements of Thalasian society cannot accept what has happened. A human carrying royal genetic markers challenges everything they believe about our superiority, our divine right to rule. Some are calling for your arrest, Dr. Mitchell. Others are calling for your execution. Ryan's mouth went dry. Execution? For donating blood. For contaminating the royal line, Nathan said bluntly. I don't agree with them, but I need you to understand the severity of the situation. This isn't going away. Even if we survive the next hour, this crisis will follow you both. What about the progressive factions? Elena asked. Surely some people see the opportunity here. If humans carry precursor heritage equal to ours, it validates decades of alliance building. They do, Nathan confirmed. And they're arguing just as loudly. Our entire government is in chaos. Half want to embrace this as proof that humans are our equals. Half want to deny it entirely and bury the evidence. Bury the evidence, Ryan repeated. By which you mean bury me. Nathan didn't deny it. The countdown timer hit 15 minutes. On the display, the 6 extremist ships grew larger as they approached. Ryan could see their weapons charging, energy building along weapon ports that glowed with malevolent light. There has to be a solution, Ryan said, more to himself than anyone else. There has to be something we're not seeing. Elena's hand found his, squeezing gently. Through the bond, he felt her fear mixing with determination, and underneath that, something else. Trust. She trusted him to help find a way through this. Then we'd better find it fast, she said quietly. Because we're running out of time. The first impact hit like an earthquake. Ryan felt it through his entire body. The floor lurched, the walls groaned, and the lights flickered for one terrifying second before the emergency systems kicked in. He grabbed the edge of the conference table to steady himself as another explosion rocked the station. This one was closer. The defensive shields were holding, but every hit made the entire structure shudder like a building in a windstorm. They're actually doing it, Ryan breathed, unable to believe what was happening. They're actually shooting at us. The alarm klaxon started wailing, a piercing sound that made thinking difficult. Red warning lights flashed throughout the conference room, painting everything in urgent bursts of crimson. On the holographic displays, Ryan watched energy weapons lance out from the extremist ships, bright lines of destruction that slammed into the station's shields over and over. Laura Bennett, the human diplomatic attaché who'd been trying to convince Ryan to evacuate earlier, was shouting something, but Ryan couldn't hear her over the noise. He moved closer, and she repeated herself, her voice cutting through the chaos. They're firing on a neutral station. With a member of the royal family aboard. This is insane. They believe they're saving that royal family, Dr. Victor countered from across the room. He was monitoring the medical displays, making sure the impacts hadn't damaged any critical life support systems. Fanatics always justify their actions. In their minds, they're heroes preventing contamination. Another impact. This one was strong enough that Ryan's feet actually left the floor for a moment. He crashed back down, his knees buckling, and would have fallen if Princess Elena hadn't caught his arm. Through the bond, he felt her fear spike, not for herself, but for him. For everyone on this station who was in danger because of what they'd done. A new hologram flickered to life in the center of the room. This one showed a Thalasian male who radiated authority the way the sun radiates heat. He was ancient. Ryan could tell from the complexity of the crystalline patterns on his skin and the way everyone in the room immediately straightened up. Even Princess Elena stood a bit taller. That's Emperor David, Elena whispered to Ryan. The head of the royal family. My grandfather. Emperor David's hologram stabilized, and when he spoke, his voice somehow cut through the alarm klaxons and the sounds of bombardment. Princess Elena. Report. 6 purest movement ships are attacking the station, Elena said crisply, all business despite the chaos. They're targeting the medical bay and surrounding sections. They know where Dr. Mitchell and I are located. Casualties? None yet. The shields are holding, but Station Commander Phillips estimates we have maybe 10 minutes before they breach. The Emperor's eyes, sharp and calculating despite his age, shifted to look at Ryan. Even through the hologram, the gaze was intense. You're the human who saved my granddaughter's life. It wasn't a question, but Ryan answered anyway. Yes, sir. Your Majesty. I mean, he fumbled the proper form of address. David is fine, the Emperor said, waving away the formality. We don't have time for ceremony. Elena, I'm authorizing you to use emergency royal protocols. Stop them before they kill everyone on that station. Princess Elena's expression shifted. Through the bond, Ryan felt her resolve harden into something cold and determined. She moved to the command console at the front of the room, her fingers hovering over controls that looked impossibly complex to Ryan's eyes. Are you sure, grandfather? She asked. Emergency protocols haven't been used in over a century. The political implications are irrelevant if everyone dies, David interrupted. Use them. That's an order. Elena nodded once and started working the controls. Her fingers moved with practiced precision, entering commands faster than Ryan could follow. The console lit up with new displays, symbols and readouts that meant nothing to him but everything to her. What's she doing? Ryan asked Dr. Victor quietly. Every Thalasian royal vessel in range has an emergency override, Victor explained, his eyes fixed on Elena's work. It's a failsafe from the old days when the royal family commanded the military directly. She's activating it now. Any ship with royal codes will be forced to stand down when she broadcasts. Will it work on the extremist ships? We're about to find out. Princess Elena finished her work and straightened up. She took a deep breath, composing herself, and when she spoke into the console, her voice carried across all frequencies. Ryan heard it both directly and through the station speakers, creating an odd echo effect. This is Princess Elena of the 7th House, direct bloodline of Emperor David, speaking under emergency royal protocols. I command all vessels bearing Thalasian registry to cease fire immediately and withdraw to minimum safe distance. Her voice was different now. Stronger. It carried a weight of authority that Ryan hadn't heard before, even during the chaos in the medical bay. This was what a princess sounded like when she stopped asking and started commanding. I invoke the authority of blood, she continued. Any vessel that does not comply will be declared an enemy of the throne itself and marked for destruction. You have 60 seconds to comply. The bombardment stopped. The sudden silence was almost as shocking as the explosions had been. Ryan's ears rang in the absence of the alarm klaxons, which someone had mercifully shut off. On the holographic displays, he watched the 6 extremist ships. They'd stopped firing, but they hadn't retreated either. They hung in space, weapons still charged, clearly debating what to do. They are holding position, Station Commander Phillips reported from his console. Weapons still hot. They are not attacking, but they are not leaving either. They are waiting, Elena said quietly. Through the bond, Ryan felt her tension. They want to see what we'll do next. Whether we'll back down or follow through. What are they waiting for? Ryan asked. Justification, Dr. Victor answered. If you do something that proves you're a threat, they'll resume firing and claim they were right all along. If Elena backs down, they'll claim victory and use it to strengthen their position politically. Ryan understood. This wasn't just about stopping the attack. It was about what came next. Every decision they made now would ripple outward, affecting not just their own lives but the entire relationship between humans and Thalasians. We need to give them something else, Ryan said suddenly, an idea forming. Something they can't argue with. Elena turned to look at him. What do you mean? They're extremists, right? They think in black and white. Us versus them. Pure versus contaminated. Ryan started pacing, his mind racing. But what if we show them that it's not that simple? What if we prove that this bond between us isn't contamination, it's exactly what's supposed to happen? How? Elena asked. Ryan turned to Emperor David's hologram. You said the precursor genetic markers were split across different worlds on purpose. That they were meant to reunite eventually. The royal scanner confirmed that Elena and I are a perfect royal match. That's not contamination. That's fulfillment of a plan that's thousands of years old. The Emperor's expression was unreadable. Continue. So we don't apologize, Ryan said, his conviction growing. We don't back down or try to minimize what happened. We own it. We tell both our species that this was meant to happen, that it's proof humans and Thalasians are supposed to work together, and that anyone who opposes it is opposing the will of the precursors themselves. That's a bold strategy, David said slowly. And politically dangerous. You'd be forcing everyone to choose a side. They are already choosing sides, Elena pointed out. At least this way, we control the narrative. Another hologram flickered to life. This one showed 3 human warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the station's sensor range. They were still hours away at normal speeds, but their presence changed the dynamic immediately. This is Captain Jessica Torres of the United Earth ship Defiant, A voice crackled over the communications system. We received the emergency transmission. Dr. Mitchell, we're here to extract you and bring you home. Ryan grabbed the comm unit before anyone could stop him. Captain Torres, this is Ryan Mitchell. I appreciate you coming, but I'm not leaving. There was a pause. Sir, you're in an active combat zone with hostile forces who want you dead. This is not the time for stubbornness. It's not stubbornness, Ryan said firmly. It's choice. I'm choosing to stay. I'm choosing to see this through. He glanced at Elena, who was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Through the bond, though, he felt her gratitude in something else. Respect, maybe. I'm not running from this. Neither is Princess Elena. Dr. Mitchell. My decision is final, Captain. But thank you for the offer. Maybe keep those warships handy in case things go sideways. He released the comm unit and found everyone staring at him. Elena moved to stand beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. Together, then, she said quietly. Together, Ryan agreed. She turned back to the command console and opened a broadcast channel. This time, her voice would reach both the extremist ships and the newly arrived Earth vessels. Both species would hear what came next. People of Thalasia and Earth, Elena began. Her voice was steady, calm, carrying none of the doubt Ryan could feel through their bond. What you're witnessing is not contamination or corruption. It's the fulfillment of a plan laid down by the precursors thousands of years before either of our civilizations existed. Ryan stepped up beside her. I'm Dr. Ryan Mitchell. A week ago, I was nobody important, just a researcher studying alien biology. Today, I saved Princess Elena's life with a blood transfusion that should have been impossible. Except it wasn't impossible. It was always supposed to happen. The Royal Scanner, precursor technology that hasn't activated in over 1,000 years, confirmed what our scientists are only beginning to understand, Elena continued. Humans and Thalasians share a common heritage. We were meant to find each other. We were meant to work together. Dr. Mitchell and I have been bound by genetics older than our recorded history, Elena said. We didn't choose this, but we're choosing what comes next. We're establishing the Concordance, a joint initiative between our species to explore our shared heritage and build a future together. Not because we have to, Ryan added. Because we want to. Because it's right. The broadcast ended. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the extremist ships began to power down their weapons and retreat.